All right, good evening. I want to welcome you to the San Mateo County Office of Emergency Service meeting of January 23rd, 2020. Wish you all a very, very happy new year. With that, can I have a roll call, please, Madam Clerk?
Atherton. Belmont.
Belmont is here.
Brisbane. Burlingame. Colma. Daly City. East Palo Alto. Foster City. Half Moon Bay. Hillsborough. Menlo Park. Millbrae. Pacifica.
Did you say Millbrae? I'm sorry, here.
Pacifica. Portola Valley.
Here.
Redwood City. San Bruno.
Here.
San Carlos.
Here.
San Mateo. South San Francisco. Woodside. County of San Mateo.
Great, thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes from September 19th, 2019?
So move. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Great. Operational area report, Captain Scott Kilpatrick. Before we do that, I do believe we have one public comment, if you wouldn't mind.
Sorry to ask to do it in advance of the agenda. I have a 6 p.m. doctor's appointment over at Kaiser, so I have to rush back. Okay. That sounds better, huh? Carlisle Ann Young. I live in the unincorporated area of San Mateo County in Moss Beach. And the reason I'm here is Supervisor Horsley came to our Mid-Coast Community Council meeting on the 8th of this month, and he wheeled out, he said this was about to come out, it's Connect the Coast Side, which is a comprehensive traffic management plan for the coast side. And at that time, I think Joe LeClaire from San Mateo County Planning was there, and it was pointed out that there was no evacuation plan for some kind of event such as the Paradise wildfire, where 85 people died. And we do only have really 2 ways in and 2 ways out, 3 if you count the south end of Highway 1, but we go over 92 or we go up through Pacifica. So Joe LeClaire said he thought it would be OES or the San Mateo County CAL FIRE division, and I called them both, and I spoke with Jonathan, and I spoke with Brian Mulver, who was assigned the task of the emergency management plan for the coast side, disaster evacuation plan, I guess is a better way to put it. So I've been looking through the 309-page draft of the Connect the Coast Side. I still didn't see it there yet. And I'm really hoping that I'm in the right place, because even when I looked at the emergency functions in your guys' thing, it said EF16 was evacuation, but unfortunately it came up as a blank section. They merged it into 13. So I have evacuation nightmares. And, we have a lot of wildland areas on the coast, and we're very unconnected to other areas. We also have potential for tsunamis, and Highway 1, right where the El Granada Fire Station is, might be covered with an inundation.
Ma'am,
So basically, I was hoping that this is the right place to get the ball rolling to start a plan, because otherwise we're effed, pardon the French.
No, first of all, let me just thank you for your comments. What I'm going to ask you to do, to my left is Kevin Rose, and Kevin is a part of the OES team here, and I think Kevin can provide you some of the information that you need. I really appreciate you taking the time to come, 30, 45 minutes.
I have the doctor's appointment at Kaiser, so it just
Make us
worked
feel
out.
good. But anyways,
Appreciate it, too.
Kevin will talk to you, and I want to wish you a good night. Thank you for your comments.
Thank you very much. I hope that a plan will emerge, because I couldn't find anything online.
Great. No, thank you for your comments. That brings us to item 3, operational area report. Captain Scott Kilpatrick.
Happy 2020, everyone. Thank you for your continued support and the time that you're taking to be here with us. The report, everybody has a copy. There's no anomalies or anything to speak of that's changed. The last quarter is very similar to the prior 3 quarters. So if anybody has any questions about that, I'd be happy to try to address them.
Are there any questions for the captain? So the report is, it's in our packet for review, correct? Okay, great, thank you so much.
If I may take a just real quick second, I know we have a really full agenda. We have two new employees with us. I just want to introduce them to the council really quickly. First is Paul Lim. Paul, if you could stand up. Paul's in the back of the room there. Just real quickly, Paul has a Master's of Science in Crisis and Emergency Management from University of Nevada, Las Vegas. He's a Master Exercise Practitioner. His prior experience includes serving in the TSA Coordination Center at SFO, and he was there during the Asiana aircraft crash. He's an all-hazard exercise planner for the United States Marine Corps in the West and Pacific regions, and also included international installations. He's recently had a deployment right before coming to us with the Debris Removal Operations Center planning section for the campfire up north. So lots of experience. We're really fortunate to have him.
Great,
Thanks, Paul.
welcome.
All right. The other employee I wanted to mention, Mike McKeon. He comes to us as the Disaster Programs Manager from the American Red Cross for Humboldt and Del Norte counties. He was there for 2 years. He worked as a FEMA Disaster Survivor Assistance Specialist and a FEMA Public Works Specialist. In his capacity with Red Cross, he supported local disaster operations throughout Northern California. He's also been deployed in federal activations to disasters, including Hurricanes Harvey, Irma, and Florence. Another really great addition to our team. So I just wanted to introduce him to the panel.
Great, thank you very much, and welcome. That brings us to item 5, the OES calendar. Mr. Rose.
Good evening, Supervisor Canepa, honorable members of the ESC. Happy New Year. Any new ESC members for this year? No? All returning?
All season.
All returning champions. Thank you so much. This is going to be a long meeting. That's why we had the candy bars made available to you. As one of your polite council members said, we didn't want you hungry or hangry. One change to the agenda, item 5. Unfortunately, the Flood Resiliency District is very sick and apologizes profusely. We'll try to have the makeup presentation in April. So one of the things with regards to the OES calendar is, actually, if I could ask all OES staff to please stand. Kathy as well. Even the new guys, OES staff, if you could please stand. So one of the things that I'm going to be doing is, instead of the calendar, I wanted to provide a year in review for this council to get an understanding and idea of exactly everything that was accomplished. And it's the staff that makes it all work. You guys can sit down now. So launching into it, essentially what I wanted to share, and then we'll also be talking about the 2020 preview of what's going to be happening. So broken down into categories, in 2019, we developed, implemented, performed, and/or participated in more than 12 full-scale, functional, and tabletop exercises with scenarios and topics ranging from chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear explosion attack on a BART train, to an active shooter, week-long fire and law in a school setting, to 13 cities in the county activating their emergency operations centers for an earthquake scenario, to a simulated neighborhood evacuation in San Carlos, and an earthquake devastation to our critical transportation infrastructure in San Mateo County and the entire Bay Area. And snapshots show some of the exercises that were accomplished last year. The next slide, we helped, held, funded, secured, and/or attended more than 14 national, state, regional, and local trainings, workshops, and seminars tackling climate change, homeland security, mass notification, critical transportation, public information officer trainings, and a great partnership with SFO where the county, airport, and cities all participated in an intensive 4-day emergency operations center training and exercise in SFO's actual emergency operations center. Next. We made disaster fun with 3 large disaster preparedness days for our residents, including the successful Coastside Preparedness Day, where residents, not the tourists, flooded the downtown area. Millbrae held its first successful disaster preparedness day, and with the support of Supervisor Groom and all of our first agency partners, the county's 15th annual disaster preparedness day. And lastly, this one slide that I wanted to talk about is we had two big successes with CERT in 2019. First, what had been years in the making, Coastside Fire Protection District instituted and housed, organized, and supported a strong branch number 1 and 2 in the city of Half Moon Bay and Half Moon Bay proper and the Mid-Coast. And years in the making, Cal County Fire and the Sheriff's Office, through your Emergency Services Council, succeeded in developing a strong disaster service worker program and privileging of County Cal Fire sponsored CERT teams throughout the county, allowing them to have greater control and authority over the CERT teams in regards to their preparedness for activation. And why the number of CERT teams increased in 2019, we wanted to mention that Redwood City Fire and the Sheriff's Office in the city of Redwood City entered into a 50-50 OES CERT program coordinator partnership that I'll call Operation Jan Peterson, just because Jan Peterson is the one that we had hired, if she could stand in the back. And this was a phenomenal partnership where essentially a very strong, successful CERT program through the Redwood City Fire Department that included San Carlos was reinvigorated, revived, and also including North Fair Oaks, where they're coming back even stronger with a lot of returning members and a lot of energy to move forward with the existing CERT teams that are welcoming them back in open arms. So that's pretty much 2019's year in review. What I want to talk about next is basically the 2020 initial outlook. First and foremost, which was on very much everyone's attention idea, is the public safety power shutoff events. So in the coming months, the county, our Office of Emergency Services, will update and revise its draft de-energization plan, which is basically our response plan to public safety power shutoffs that was utilized in the response to the 3 public safety power shutoff events that we actually had in October, and the 4th event that was canceled and did not occur, but we still had to prepare for it with regards to critical infrastructure, response, information sharing, and keeping everyone informed. Our Emergency Operations Center was activated. What we did post-event was held debriefs with cities, agencies, county departments, first responders, as well as other partner agencies in order to get feedback and provide information not only to PG&E in the ways that they can improve their handling of these events, but also the county and all the cities and how we can do so. So the county, within the coming months, we will have a plan that will be shared with all the cities for review and up to the cities. In essence, I know some have taken it upon their own initiative to develop their de-energization plans, but the county, we want to make this available because it involves the cities of how we communicate with you and with regards to resources, and then also for cities, how you may want to also emulate the plan itself. The reason for this is, as was stated by PG&E and its CEO, this is the new normal for up to next 10 years. So we will have more public safety power shutoffs this year. Other item I wanted to talk about was disaster debris management plan. So in 2018, and next agenda item is about the annual preparedness survey that I'll go over. This body and all of the cities expressed interest in, because of the 2017 fires in North County and because of the Paradise Fire in Butte County, debris management and the importance with regards to recovery of getting communities back in order and rebuilding again. So the county fought hard and struggled with the help of Kathy Pape here to secure grant funding in 2 different components. One was basically pressure upon us, the county, for all unincorporated, Big C County, to get our departments to develop a plan. We didn't have enough funding for all of the cities, so it's the county and its departments that's developing this plan with a rapid, the money that she was able to find, with a rapid conclusion in April, where cities will be invited in March to review this county plan because the success of our Emergency Managers Association, they were able to submit, and it's currently with the state waiting for approval that we hope they will get, the funding necessary for all 20 cities and then even the operational area to have their disaster debris management plan. So county, we went first with money that we were able to find, short time frame. Latter part of this calendar year, is when that funding stream is going to become available, when we'll go out to RFP. And the good news for your 20 cities in the operational area is that you'll have upwards of 18 months basically to work on this plan. It won't need that amount of time, but more funding, more time for you guys to be able to tackle that. OES JPA bylaws, please remind me at the end of the slide to go back to that. Next item, the Regional Operations Center. We have moved. So we are OES now in our new home, the Regional Operations Center. Our Public Safety Communications 911 Dispatch Center is our upstairs neighbor, and they are fully operational. I wish we could say the same. We will be in the coming weeks. And essentially, this also includes our new Emergency Operations Center, which one of the things that we're working on is a program that Jeff Norris and Noeline Powers are going to be working on, is developing the configuration of our Emergency Operations Center based on Cal OES and FEMA of activation of a level 1, 2, and 3, basically a small activation, a hot EOC that we maintain 24/7, mid-level activation, and a full-on activation. So we are hopeful April or perhaps the June meeting for ESC we will hold at the Rock for you to be able to witness everything that is there. In addition to what you, and thank you very much, a lot of the members that came to our Rock ribbon cutting ceremony a couple months ago. And the other thing I wanted to share is because of this EOC configuration in late spring, we may have to push it to early summer, we are going to conduct the county a emergency operations center exercise to test our emergency operations center. And we already have 2 towns, Portola Valley and Woodside, that have agreed to partner with us for some in-house training in our EOC with this exercise. It's really a test of our EOC and to share with the most impacted towns from the Public Safety Power Shutoff events with their staff and training, all 20 of them and 30 of them respectively, I believe. But for the other cities, different from the November exercise where we all participated with injects and working back and forth, for this one we'll ask cities if they'd like to help us test our communications back and forth. So it's a county exercise with the 2 towns participating, but we would like other cities, and some have already expressed interest, to help us out with some of our communication networks and system, because we have a new AV system that's 21st century technology that we're really looking forward to tackling. Multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan. As I've come to this board and mentioned, and you guys were successful in the June meeting, all 20 city managers, with the support of the county that was going to put up all of the funds, and then the 25% matching fund. In July of 2018, we submitted a grant to Cal OES, California Office of Emergency Services, and FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Agency, for a $250,000 multi-jurisdictional local hazard mitigation plan redevelopment. So the current plan that 18 of the 20 cities in the county are part of the multi-jurisdictional, and then San Mateo and Foster City actually have their own approved plan. They are all expiring. Ours is expiring September 14th, 2021. And so this funding basically will enable us to get all jurisdictions, and there's even special districts, including some high school districts, like the Woodside Fire Protection District, that is incorporated in these plans, to get that new 5-year renewal. And what this does is, as a lot of cities can go through their local hazard mitigation plans, it's federal funding for projects that you guys are able to do with regards to revitalization, evacuation routes, tree clearing, defensible spaces, etc. So the update, July 2018, the feds moved the way the feds moved. We're still waiting to know if this application is going to be approved. The good news is Cal OES did put it to FEMA. FEMA came back with questions that we answered in January, and fingers are still crossed that we'll actually be able to secure this grant. If not, just today, we were able to put forth in the 2020 State Homeland Security Grant Program our contingency plan. This contingency plan is essentially that $250,000 that we will try to secure basically in case this federal grant does not come into fruition. This other grant will cause a delay where we will go beyond the 2021 mark. However, based upon what the feds and Cal OES share with us, is that if we reach that status, we can work with them in concert to let them know in good faith we're working towards the new 5-year renewal, not to hurt us with regards to our hazard mitigation plans. So hopefully next meeting I'll have great news If not, I'll have continued news. September 17th. So as I mentioned at the previous meeting, the Bay Area Urban Area Securities Initiative that includes 12 counties, including San Mateo County, 2019 and 2020, critical transportation is the focus. So in 2019, it was the information gathering and essentially tabletop exercising of all of the counties. And we were separated into a West Hub that, for this one, actually included City County of San Francisco, San Mateo County, and Santa Clara County, including our public transit agencies and the Metropolitan Transportation Commission, to test our systems and to see what the impact would be with regards to earthquake scenario of our critical transportation, ingress and egress of evacuation routes, as well as establishing those routes necessary to bring in supplies and resources, et cetera. So all of the information has been gathered. The first planning meeting was held this week that staff attended, and come September, the great news is that all 12 counties will be exercising with this. The Metropolitan Transportation Commission will be exercising with this. All of the public transit agencies, Samtrans, Caltrain, BART, et cetera, will be exercising with this. And San Mateo County, we will be able to have a contractor to help us develop our own in-county injects master scenario events list so that the cities can participate as well. So more news on that at the next meeting. And then exercises, training, workshops, seminars, events.
Great.
Back to the OES JPA bylaws. So the Joint Powers Authority Agreement that allows for OES to exist and for you to be our governing body, written into contract, last approval was 2015. In 2015, included within the agreement is by 2020, and then every 5 years afterwards, the ESC will review the JPA agreement and provide any recommendations or suggestions and changes to the body. The body itself will approve and act upon it if there are proposed changes, and then you would take to your respective all 20 city county councils and the Board of Supervisors to vote on any of these changed amendments. This will be a year-long process, so today is the first day of telling you that this is occurring. And essentially what I would like to ask the chair and discussion, please, is perhaps if you could, what we want to propose is for staff to meet with county council to basically go over the parameters, that's your council as well, of the agreement to see what portions of it can and can't be reviewed, what would be the interest in doing so. Technically, the agreement in its entirety, governance, staffing, funding formulas, et cetera, is open for play. But as I talk to county council to figure out some of the federal state requirements and this body's decision on what we really should review or look at. We also talked about this with our Emergency Managers Association, the professional organization with the 20 city emergency managers and other partners, that they are very interested in this. And what we would most likely do is OES, we would be an oversight committee and have members, representative from the cities and emergency managers with this committee. So the ask essentially is, does it make sense for staff, after meeting with county council, come back in April and give you an idea and suggestion as far as how we want to proceed?
Are there any comments to that? Any disagreement? You know, the one thing I would just suggest to you is just really making sure, and I don't know if we want to create a subcommittee, because what I'd hate to see happen is we have a document that's put before us, and really there isn't it's already sort of pre-baked. I think maybe getting the members of the board sort of maybe initially involved, and so maybe the vehicle to do that is through a subcommittee, but I'm just offering that up. I don't know.
I agree.
All right. So why don't we do this? Why don't we create a subcommittee of 3? And so are there any members interested in the subcommittee? Ms. Borgens? I see Cecilia, Medina, and 5's too much. I think 3 is good. I'm sorry, Ann.
She could be the
So-
alternate.
All right. Is there anything additional? I think we covered it, right, Kevin?
Correct, yes. The staff, what we'll do is we'll reach out to the three respective members. We'll include you as well, Supervisor Canepa as chair, as far as how we proceed. And then come April, we'll have some recommendations after we've been able to meet with county council. And the good news, of course, is that we will also have the February and March meetings for some initial discussion and keeping the Emergency Managers Association updated as well.
Okay, great. You know, what I may do is I may put Ann on there, Miss Keegren, because she had requested it, so maybe that's better. Okay. So that brings us, are we?
Couple of
you're-
questions.
Yeah.
If I may. I think I was one of the people up here who asked for a disaster preparedness cleanup plan, so I'm very happy with that. I do have 35 years in this area, including having control of 4 landfills after the '89 earthquake. If you need a preliminary reviewer, I would be very happy to do that, and then I can talk to you and teach you all, if you don't already know, the value of contingency contracts on that. And then my second question was, under the hazard mitigation plan, I'm sure everybody would have seen the news last week about an airline dumping fuel on 7 schools in Los Angeles. And being a community where airplanes fly over us all the time, where do we include jet fuel drops in our hazard mitigation plan or somewhere else? If it's somewhere else, I'll come back to that. I'm just now scared of how much jet fuel is actually being dropped on us and we don't know about it.
Homework assignment for me. Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Very good. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Kevin.
Okay, and let me just, for the subcommittee, San Bruno, Redwood City, and Menlo Park. Okay, next item on the agenda is the annual disaster preparedness survey. Thanks, Jeff. So every year per the JPA agreement we just talked about, all 20 cities in the county are asked to complete an annual disaster preparedness survey to be reported out at the January ESC meeting. And per the JPA agreement, the Emergency Managers Association Planning Committee develops the survey. So I do want to thank, and the EMA will have a update to provide later in the meeting, but do want to thank for the second year in a row the EMA Planning Committee for developing this survey. What they chose to do, which I thought made a lot of sense, was a emulation copy of the 2018 survey to really compare apples to apples. There was one question that was new that I'll talk about, and what I'm going to do is similar to last year. I'll provide a broad, brief overview of 2018, 2019 comparisons, and then within 2 weeks, what we're going to do is similar to last year. To each ESC member and to your emergency manager, staff will email to you your city's response to the survey, and then a comprehensive document that shows all cities' response to the survey. And I do want to thank the new guys, Paul and Mike, for putting a lot of effort to pull those together. So within the next week or two, this will be emailed out to all of you. So, the highlights. The annual preparedness survey is essentially questions captured in the following categories: hazard mitigation, planning, communication, emergency management ops, training and exercise, research management, logistics, and administration. Next, section 1, as we'll start to go through all of this. One of the things, everyone, hazard plan mitigation, maintenance, 100%, that's fantastic. We had 100% response too. And I'm sorry, quick sidebar. For the website that was emailed out to you of the slide deck, were any of you able to take a look at it prior to the meeting? Okay, well, what we're going to try to do is a few days prior to the ESC meeting for 2020, and really want to thank Jeff Norris, is to get this slide deck to you a couple days in advance so that you could see what's coming before you. Because some of the feedback we had is that the agenda doesn't necessarily show what the subject that might be tackled or discussed. And so the presentations, we want to be able to provide a little more flavor and understanding so you get a chance to do it. The best we could do is a few days prior. Based upon the presenters and what they're able to deliver to us. But we'll continue to do that for 2020 and seek feedback and input. Back to the survey. So section 1, 100% participation in hazard mitigation plan maintenance. Other thing I wanted to stress, what was great, is some cities chose to take more initiative. We have more cities that are participating in the National Flood Insurance Program and the Community Rating System, which is also part of the National Flood Improvement Plan, and then the Fire Safety Committee. For section 2, more progress. Essentially, the National Incident Management System, that's the feds. They copied us, the state, California, standardized emergency management system. This is a national requirement that actually helps us benefit with regards to funding, reimbursement, response, disaster recovery supplies, et cetera. So the great news is that we have increased 4 more cities that have the new NIMS incorporated into your emergency operations plan and documents. In addition, 7 of your cities that are working on it, and that's something we hope this year to keep those numbers climbing up. This is good progress. And then the new question that was for this year, public safety power shutoff. So interesting enough, including the county, there are 4 other cities that actually have, in some form or another, an existing de-energization plan. So, for example, I think Redwood City, San Carlos had begun tackle of de-energization plan with the assistance of Nolene Powers and the Redwood City Fire and city staff. And so for those cities that have begun, again, shared with the emergency managers when the county completes our plan in the coming months, it can either be a complement or the template for you guys to make sure that it works with what you have done moving forward. Next section. So section 3, again, this is very good. So essentially, increased utilization of various mass alert and notification. You've witnessed this, we've witnessed this, most likely because of the public safety power shutoffs, but because of the fires the last couple of years. The residents are hungry for more information and want us to communicate, and you to communicate with them more. So the great thing, all 20 cities in the county participating in utilizing SMC Alert. Increase all 20 cities in the county utilizing social media now. Nixle, which is Everbridge, is the company that is also SMC Alert. So even there, we have 3 additional cities that are utilizing that. San Mateo is a super user, essentially, of the Nixle program. That does look like SMC Alert, actually, to our favor. And then it was really more of amateur radio, of, again, the communication redundancies of your cities really amping up within your staff, having redundant communications and alternative communications to be able to talk with residents when the power and cell goes off. And then all 21 cities, please continue to support us with SMC Alert, and thank you. Our numbers keep climbing. We broke 100,000 a few months ago. Section 4. More good news. The residents are getting involved more and more. And as we see here, an increase in neighborhood groups, amateur radio up by 1, but that's fantastic. And the CERT 17 to 17, so that 17 as an asterisk in 2018 that Redwood City finally was able to bring back, and San Carlos to make that true force 17 for 2019. So again, residents taking the initiative, realizing they got skin in the game, so they need to up their disaster presence as well. Next section. Section 5, good show, increase. This is Emergency Operations Center activations tested. A lot of these were actual EOC activations because of the public safety power shutoff from the impacted cities. But only one city or town missing, I don't know who it is, that we'll try to work with. And increase of annual training needs, not only the residents, not only their resiliency or communicating with them, but your own staff and the importance that they're trained in emergency preparedness as disaster service workers. That's excellent. 2 more cities working with the needs assessment. And then training and exercise plan. This is something the county we really want to work with. This is something Emergency Managers Association has expressed interest as well, to really book out a strong program of trainings and exercises to complement one another, the cities and the county, because we're doing it hodgepodge right now, and truthfully, that's the way it is. But we are, in 3 years, there's been interest in kind of one fight, one team that they sort of talk about, where that's why I was referencing the success we had with that EEMC training at SFO and the PIO exercise trainings as well, and the November exercise. So we're continuing to work on that. Next one, section 6. Training programs aligning with the state emergency management system. Homeland Security exercise and evaluation program, that's important. The feds really like to see that. National Incident Management System, all 20 cities in the county. Congrats, that's really good. And then multi-jurisdictional exercise within the last 3 years. Honestly, I think all 20 cities in the county, every year, were involved in a county exercise. So again, big kudos, please, to your staff, to your emergency managers, to you, for us doing this. Because it's not just the county like the November exercise, but other opportunities like our health department that through their statewide exercise was able to do a mass shelter, full-scale exercise in November that a lot of cities participated in as well. Next one, section 6, resource management and logistics. This is our one ding, I guess, is what I'll say. There's a decrease in the identification of evacuation center locations and a decrease in identification of your heating and cooling centers. We have taken note. Please take note as well. And what we will do is report, Red Cross is here, Emergency Managers Association is here. We'll also share with the health department, and we'll also share with the Human Services Agency. These are our active partners in trying to work on this. Next one, section 7, administration, designated emergency manager. Not just the residents with the communications piece, not just the residents, the skin in the game, not just the staff need to be trained up on this, not just the cities exercising with the county, but you are starting to recognize with regards to emergency management, this is a growing profession, not only here, but nationally. And essentially what that means is this is becoming almost a standalone that it can't necessarily be, quote, other duties as assigned. So we're noticing that in certain aspects. It's just 3 of an increase for full-time or majority of 6 cities in the county, but that's fantastic. And there's also contract cities that go higher than that. The decrease in part-time is the increase in full-time majority. And so, yeah, and so essentially there will be greater need for this, greater attention, greater staffing. It's PSPS, it's the earthquakes, it's the floods, it's the fires. California is disaster Disneyland. And so essentially we plan accordingly.
Question. Is any of this related to the amount of development that's happening in our cities?
Good question. I'd actually revert to the cities if you're feeling that presence. For us, it's more so what we've noticed is the community and the political will that has really increased from this because of the November 2017 wildfires and then the Paradise Fire. Very close to home, worst fires ever. And if you go back 3 or 4 years, worst fire ever, next year the worst fire ever, next year the worst fire ever. So I think it is, as I said, closer to home. The people are realizing this. And the fact of climate change and resiliency that communities, and you're absolutely right, we are growing and aging and expanding, that there is more focus on, you guys know this better, than planning and preparedness, et cetera. Okay. And then jurisdictions, sorry, back one. Jurisdictions, just as we asked them with regards of assistance, this is more than 50% of cities, and the county did not participate in this. What do the cities in the county want to work with together? Grants that we've been talking, and training and exercises that we've demonstrated, and debris management that we're tackling this year. So that is the annual survey. As I said, they will all go out to you. And Atherton, congratulations. So there you go. The individual report and the all-comprehensive report.
Great.
Be jealous.
Thank you so much, Kevin. Are there any questions for Mr. Rose? Ann, Ms. Keegren.
I just have one question. In regard to the SMC alert enrollments, you mentioned all cities are participating. I wanted to know if it's possible we can have quarterly updates in regards to the percentage of the population that has signed up. I know you've provided those in the past, but if we can have a regular update so the cities can actually monitor whether we are seeing an increase, that would be, I would recommend that if possible.
Absolutely. Thank you for
Thank
the
you.
feedback, because we were doing monthly and stopped. And so quarterly, Jeff pulls it all together. Get it going.
All right. Are there any additional questions? All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Rose. That brings us to item 3, the Bay Area Quality Management District presentation. Familiar face.
As we are bringing up, your board, this ESC, had requested with regards to a presentation from the Air Quality Management District, work that has been accomplished and done. since the November 2017 fires. And so we were finally able and fortunate to get the Air Quality Management District here. We have Lisa Fasano, Communications Director, and Tracy Lee with Compliance and Enforcement that will provide us with an update.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Rose.
Good evening, Good evening, Supervisor Canepa and members of the committee, and thank you for inviting us here tonight. Tracy and I have come to give you an overview of our wildfire air quality response program, but first, I want to start with an overview of our recent wildfire history. So this is a list of CAL FIRE's top 20 most destructive California wildfires. CAL FIRE has 3 measures for wildfires, largest in terms of acreage, deadliest in terms of lives lost, and most destructive based on how many structures were lost in the fire. This is the list of the most destructive fires based on buildings lost. Our most recent wildfire, the Kincaid fire in 2019, consumed over 77,000 acres, but structural loss was limited to 60, and there was no loss of life, which was very fortunate. And that's why we don't see that fire on this list. You can see that, that as Kevin said, the fires are getting larger and more destructive and deadlier in recent years. Unfortunately, we're recognizing this as our new reality. This graphic is courtesy of Newsweek and shows the amount of acreage burned in terms of millions of acres. As devastating as the California wildfires were in 2018, we can see that worldwide, fires are growing larger, consuming even more acreage, with the current Australian fires, which are still burning, dwarfing what we have experienced here in California, which is somewhat amazing because we felt like we've been overrun by fires here. Here we see how these fires have impacted our air quality in the Bay Area. This chart shows how polluted air quality was and how long that air pollution lasted during these wildfires. Note the federal air quality standard for particulate matter 2.5 is 35 micrograms per cubic meter. If you look down in the bottom at the yellow, these high days at the beginning of the century were the reason the Air District adopted the residential wood burning rule in 2008. That banned wood fires in fireplaces, fire pits, and chimeneas during the 4 winter months. However, the wildfires we've been experiencing, they've dwarfed the levels that we were seeing at the beginning of the century, and we have seen impacts to our air quality throughout the year rather than just seasonally in the winter months. To deal with these new air quality challenges, the Air District initiated the Wildfire Air Quality Response Program. We looked at where we could initiate remedies to help improve conditions, better notify the public, and find areas where the Air District policy could help improve or at least mitigate wildfires in our 9-county region. These are the 5 program areas where the Air District has initiated programs, policies, or resources to help address wildfire smoke. One area the Air District has spent a considerable amount of time is developing partnerships to help us develop and deliver clear, consistent messages to the public. Tracy is handing out some of those materials to you now. We want to deliver these messages about how to prepare for wildfire smoke season, how to protect oneself and one's family when we have heavy smoke in the area, in the areas due to wildfires. During the 2017 North Bay wildfires, the Air District, the county health offices, media, fire departments, and others were all receiving calls about what people should do to protect themselves from the smoke. We quickly determined that each agency was delivering slightly different messages that ended up confusing the public and frustrating them as well. The Air District, the Association of Bay Area Health Officers, along with your own Dr. DePodcar and Dr. Morrow, the San Francisco Department of Emergency Management, and the Bay Area Urban Areas Security Initiative recognized the need to help us for us to be using the same clear, consistent messages when talking about protecting oneself from wildfire smoke. The Air District has taken the messaging that we collectively developed, again with input from all 9 counties, in partnership with the other agencies, and we've updated our website with a wildfire safety page with useful links, including current air quality data, forecasts, and air quality map, a school activity recommendations guide, which you should all have now, and wildfire preparedness tips and more. And we keep this page updated when it's needed, especially when we're experiencing heavy smoke. This is the school air quality activity recommendations chart. This was a big concern because we had many schools asking if they should cancel recess, if they should cancel school, if they should cancel outdoor sports. And so, working with the California Air Pollution Control Officers Association, we put together this chart, which gives you the levels that we call for air quality within the Bay Area when we call a Spare the Air alert. And then it shows you gives you a guide on what we would recommend be done when air quality reaches those levels. So this chart can be used by school administrators to make decisions about outdoor school activities, including recess, PE, athletics, outdoor sporting events, and festivals. Again, I said this chart was put together by the California Air Pollution Control Officers Association, and it's being used throughout the state. So all the 35 air districts in California are now using this, again, to help us with our consistency of messaging so that everyone is on the same playing field. So working together with our partner agencies, which again included San Mateo County and Dr. Morrow and Dr. DePodcar, we created the Bay Area Wildfire Smoke Messaging Toolkit. I'm sorry that I didn't put the link on here, but you can access the toolkit online at bayareausi.org/AQI, and I can send that to Kevin, who can send that out to all of you. This toolkit was developed to be a resource for city and county agencies so they can have an accurate compilation of messages and recommendations and resources to deliver when the area is blanketed with smoke. And again, in an attempt for all counties, all of us, to be sharing the same messages with the public so that we don't have any more confusion. As part of the Bay Area Air Quality Bay Area Regional Air Quality Messaging Toolkit, we created 3 simple, easy-to-understand messages to provide information to the public. Weatherize homes and buildings by sealing openings around windows and doors, as well as purchasing MERV 8 or higher filters for your home heating or HVAC systems so that you can put those in when we are having heavy smoke to keep your indoor air clean. Shelter in place or go to a cleaner air center to get relief from the smoky air. And then the final message is always prioritize heat over air quality, and that's extremely important. During a heat wave, staying cool is the priority. Heat kills more quickly than smoke, so it's important to have a plan to seek out a local cooling center for relief from heat and smoke if needed. Now I'd like to bring up my partner, Tracy Lee, to talk about additional smoke-related efforts that the Air District has been working on. Tracy?
May I make a question? Can I ask her a question right now? Okay.
Yeah. Oh.
So I do have a question. Thank you for your report. This information that you handed out, are there other ways of acquiring it, like through, for visually impaired or for other languages? Does it come in?
So we have just compiled that. We are working on getting it translated into Spanish. We will be translating it into other languages after that, but we just got this put together, and it was because we needed to get agreement with all 9 counties.
Okay.
We have not yet taken into consideration what we can do for visually impaired, but that's certainly something we can take back.
Okay, thanks.
Yes. Oh,
I would just add my community is a Mandarin Cantonese community.
yep. That would be on the list. Absolutely.
One more quick question. Would you just please repeat that URL?
Yeah, I'm happy to. Let me get back to it. It's www.bayariausi.org/AQI.
Thank you.
Mr. Rack.
And just when the school air quality index, is that something that's in soft copy too that we could get a copy of?
It's on our website, and I can send all these materials through to Kevin, and he can get them to you.
That'd be great. Thank
So
you.
both the brochure that you have, the English version, and the school guidance are available on our website, and we can get that to you.
Yeah, Ms. Schneider.
And I would assume that the same recommendations for school activity are appropriate for park and rec activity and public works staff. Is there anything that might be tailored a little bit with them? Because this may not, it's great for schools, but recreation programs run all day long too.
Right. So it would essentially be the same. And the key is when we have heavy smoke is that you want to stay indoors. You want to stay out of the smoke. You don't want to be doing anything outdoors. You don't want to have
I
outdoor
understand
activity.
that. It's more that when you've got staff that work in a certain area, you've got rec people who work on rec, they may not think of themselves as school.
No, I understand that. I understand that. But this would apply to Park and Rec as well. It would also, it's something that needs to be worked on, I believe, by each of the counties for your outdoor workers to make decisions on what you're going to do when you have people who work daily outside and we have heavy smoke that lasts 5, 7, 14 days. I mean, decisions need to be made about how those people will continue to work or do other duties while we have heavy smoke.
I have a couple of questions. A follow-up question, where are the air quality monitors located in San Mateo County? Is that in any of the information that you're providing?
I don't have that, but it's on our website, and I can get that to Kevin, and he can pass it to you if you would like to have that. We have so our air quality monitoring network, we have 35 air quality monitors throughout the Bay Area. Okay. We have both air quality monitors, we also have weather monitors, and we also have a couple of specialized monitors to look at things that are coming from overseas. But there's air quality monitors throughout the Bay Area that are set to measure regional air quality, not city by city or county by county, but regional air quality. Okay. And there's calculations that are made to help us determine what air quality is, and that's how we set our air quality levels for the 5 regions that we've kind of carved up the Bay Area into based on geographic features and weather flows. We set those air quality regions. And so when we call a spare the air alert or we call air quality alerts, it's based on what's happening as the air movement is coming for those directions. So I believe we have, is it 2 in San Mateo County? Yeah, I know we have one in Redwood City, but I thought we had one other. We can get back to you if you need to know. But it's for regional air quality, not just for a given city or a given county.
Okay, that part I understand. I have 2 additional questions. Is it possible to have a part of your policy to provide air filters to school? If you're saying that filters need to be put into place in order to provide cleaner air if there is a wildfire and students can't go outside.
This is something that Tracy will get into with some legislation that's been passed recently, so I'll let her address that. But just as a point of practicality, all schools have different HVAC systems and have different requirements as far as what kind of filtration they might need. So we kind of need to rely on the schools to make the determination on what would be best for them. But I can say this, if windows and doors are closed and we're not having a heat wave, even if there's not more substantial filtration, air quality indoors, either in school or in your home or in your office, will always be better than it is outdoors.
Thank you.
So why don't we, I know there's additional questions there maybe, why don't we have Tracy Lee come up and sort of finish the presentation, and then we'll save the questions for a little bit later, okay? Additional questions. Ms. Lee.
Thank you, Lisa, and good evening, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity to speak at today's meeting. In addition to the wildfire messaging and preparedness work at the Air District, another facet of our program is a new legislative initiative. The Air District has been working closely with Assemblymember Buffy Wicks, who represents the city of Oakland, to sponsor a bill to establish clean air centers in the Bay Area. And in 2019, in February, AB 836 was initiated to help create an incentive program that would help fund ventilation retrofits to create clean air centers in the Bay Area and statewide. And in October of 2019, Governor Newsom signed this bill, and just recently, 2 weeks ago, $5.5 million was allocated to establish clean air centers statewide. this program. The guidelines are yet to be determined. And it's intended to be developed by the state in consultation with other air districts and stakeholders. And so there's a lot more to come with this incentive program. And so it's really exciting news for us because we recognize that air filtration is a very good investment, and it's needed because wildfires are a new reality for us. And so while we wait for the funding guidelines to be developed with the state, I want to highlight another important effort at the Air District. This is our partnership with the American Red Cross. In the Bay Area, there are over 1,000 facilities affiliated with the Red Cross, and these include schools ranging from elementary school, high school, colleges, community centers, recreational centers, government buildings, and more. And so we really, have concentrated on a few key items that we're working on together. We are exploring opportunities to fund ventilation retrofits and portable air filtration units through the AB 836 funding so that facilities can open up during a wildfire disaster and still have cleaner air. And part of this is to understand the coordination efforts between cities and counties, emergency and disaster responders, including the logistics on how facilities are prioritized to be opened, and different logistics such as storage and deployment of emergency supplies. And this is important because as we think through the funding and how it would be possible to deploy portable air filters, we need to know kind of how this is all coordinated. We've also been discussing ways to improve the Red Cross's national shelter system together. They are in the process of upgrading their database, and this is important because it would help them identify which facilities have existing HVAC systems and air filtration to better prioritize which facilities to open during a disaster. And we feel this is really important because in the past, I know that there were facilities that were open that didn't have air filtration. And so we see our partnership with the Red Cross as a good way to engage cities and counties and local agencies that respond to wildfire emergencies. And we really want to make the best use of the limited funding that is available to equip this region with portable air filtration units that we can all share. And so this concludes our presentation, and we're happy to take any questions that you may have.
Are there any questions for Ms. Fasano and Ms. Lee, Ms. Keegren?
I just have a couple questions. First question is, you had mentioned there are regional monitors that actually measure the regional particles. Is there a way to measure the cities individually?
So right now, again, the way that the air monitoring network is set up is it's federally mandated that we set up monitoring stations so that we can measure regional air quality. We have to report that to the EPA. That's what's required of the Air District right now. And we have, as I said, in the Bay Area, 35 air quality monitors, and honestly, we are one of the most heavily monitored regions of the entire state of California. So putting in additional monitors, if we were to do each city or each county, it costs upwards of about, I think it's $1.5 million for each new monitor when you consider everything that goes into it and the staffing. So we look at new monitors very carefully before we have to put any more in. There's also, there would be additional reporting requirements to us in the federal government if we were putting additional monitors in. And it all has to be, they have to be installed in a way that's going to help us meet our federal Clean Air Act guideline requirements.
And then you said there was one or two monitors. I know there's one in Redwood City. Where's the other?
There's one. The last time I checked, there's one.
There's just
Just
one.
one.
Yeah, I couldn't.
Okay.
Okay, is it just one then?
Barron Street.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any, Ms. Schneider, and then Ms. Taylor?
And I thank you so much for being here. I've been looking forward to this meeting for a long time. I'm from the city of Millbrae. We are due west or adjacent to the airport. And at the airport roundtable meeting in October, the FAA scientists came up and said, oh, by the way, we're learning that jets now distribute quite a bit of 0.10 micron and smaller dust. So if you've got one monitor in our area and it's in Redwood City, and frankly, airplanes are flying all over us and particles that size take a long time to fall out of the air, but we're getting blasted with it. So do you have any requirements that have to set up additional monitors for anything around any of our airports? We have 4, but one big one and a couple of smaller ones.
We have been asked this quite a bit. We get asked this about the Oakland airport as well, and the San Jose airport, as well as the smaller airports around. I'm not familiar with any additional monitoring requirements. We did just recently complete a study that was in conjunction with the US EPA, looking specifically at air quality around smaller airports, your San Mateo, the San Bruno airport, because
San Carlos.
San Carlos Airport, thank you. Because those engines burn, those are smaller planes that burn essentially dirtier fuel. And so the question was, are there impacts there? And they're still looking at results and studies from that. I don't know yet if there's any requirement for us to do additional things around large scale airports like San Jose, San Francisco, or Oakland. So we can look into that and get back.
I would appreciate that. San Francisco is back up before its pre-2008 depression at 57.5 million passengers. They're going to 71 million passengers. Those planes are bigger. They're sending out a stronger backblast because they're bigger, and they're hitting my neighborhoods. And where have you linked this in with the toxicology studies, the air, the human injuries in there? Are you doing that kind of work?
So we look at air quality in the region, throughout the region, and we've done a number of things looking at neighborhood studies and impacted neighborhoods. I will say FAA regulates and the federal government regulates large transportation sources. So aircraft shipping is all regulated at the federal level. So we need them as partners if there's going to be anything that's done and if there's going to be any solutions or new regulations that come out of that. But we do look at smaller studies at what's happening sort of at ground level in our communities throughout the Bay Area to determine where we need to put additional efforts.
Okay. Let me think of a few more. Part of the problem with noise is it's averaged over 24 hours over 365 days. If you're taking regional air quality data and averaging it, cities like mine that are drastically influenced by the airport. And I bring this, I know we're talking about fires, but if your standard particulate level is already here and you're adding fires on top of it and there's no air monitoring devices anywhere nearby, how can you dictate to my residents or Daly Cities or San Bruno's that could be drastically different than what's happening in Redwood City?
Right. No,
I'm sorry, I just, and the airport is going through yet another expansion. San Jose is going through an EIR process right now, but they've got environmental groups keeping an eye on that, and we do not have that here.
You know, one of the good things is, Lisa, you have contact information, and where, you know, if people have questions offline, they can ask you.
I was going to suggest that we connect you up with Dr. Phil Martine, who's at the Air District, who can give you additional information or help answer questions. He and his staff would potentially have answers to some of these
That
more
would be
detailed
great.
questions.
We had our first disaster preparedness workshop in November, and I tried for 3 months to get to your agency, to get somebody from your agency to be a member agency partnering with us so we could begin to answer these questions. So I would greatly appreciate that contact.
Ms. Taylor?
Thank you. There's one other piece I wanted to add. That was just brought up was also that there's a commute by air now. There's Uber Air. So you spoke about the large aircrafts. There's also the small aircrafts that are impacting the community. Following back up with your colleague mentioned earlier about schools, are you including early learning centers as well? It sounded like you were only covering elementary ed and high school. So early learning facilities as well.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure.
There was a comment that was made earlier about schools, and so I just wanted to make sure that the early learning facilities were included.
We can take that back. However, right now the funding guidelines are still yet to be determined in collaboration with the state. So, you know, we intend to be part of that discussion and, you know, have a say in the funding guidelines, but, you know, we'll definitely take that back. It hasn't been determined yet.
Thank you so much.
I just wanted to make a couple comments. First, thank you for what the district does. Spare the Air Day what you've done around, fireplaces, wood smoke. Just thank you. Please convey our gratitude to Jack Broadbent and staff. Really appreciate it. Thank you for the presentation. I will tell you one thing that we were talking about months ago. We're talking about N95 masks. And what's really interesting, remember we had the discussion here? Let me read this to you. We'll be here till 11 tonight. There is not clear evidence that N95 respirator use by the general public is beneficial to an individual's health during wildfire, smoke, air quality events, and there could be harms. And I remember we were distributing all the N95 masks, but it's interesting to realize.
2017.
Remember in 2017, the district, we put out all those masks, and to sort of realize now, just through the medical, county medical staff, that it's probably not the best way to do it, but to be indoors. So thank you for being here, and please express our gratitude to staff. Thank you. With that brings us to item 4, the Fire Standard Evacuation Zone project presentation. He has a lot of Twitter followers, Chief Jonathan Cox and Deputy Chief Matt Sampson.
Apparently they need no introduction.
Okay, yeah.
That's all I'm going to be known for is the Twitter followers, huh?
You got some amazing info on there. It's amazing.
Good. Here's Matt. Well, good evening, Supervisor Canepa, honorable members from all the agency cities here. My name is Jonathan Cox. I'm the Deputy Fire Chief here for San Mateo County Fire Department, as well as Coastside Fire Protection District and CAL FIRE. Long sentence, long title. Standing next to me is Matt Sampson, the Deputy Fire Chief for the city of South San Francisco. And what we're here in front of you speaking about is a project that we're pretty excited about. I think you're going to be excited about when you hear about and kind of show you what's coming. If I just start things off, and bear with us, this firefighters and technology don't tend to mix very well together, so we'll get through this. What I think we've just reiterated over and over again tonight, the fact that this new normal of fires that's occurring across the state of California. I've had the unfortunate experience of being assigned to the North Bay fires, the Carr Fire, the Camp Fire, down to the Southern California fires, the Kincaid Fire this last year, and have been in that command staff role of these disasters. And a little bit about what we're establishing here with our evacuation zones in San Mateo County is really from this slide right here, and that is the 20 most destructive wildfires in California history. And if you look at this, over half of them, this is the last 100 years in California, over half of them have occurred in the last 10 years, the most destructive fires in California. And if you look at the trends across the state over the 100-year period, it's this exponential growth of both damage and honestly, destruction and loss of life. With that in mind, we also know that there are some things we can learn that we need to do. This is a photo here of the before and after in Santa Rosa. That's the Coffee Park neighborhood. This is a neighborhood, if you remember, where people were actually running for their lives, not because they got an alert on their phone, but because stuff, debris, fire was hitting the sides of the windows on their houses. That is the new reality. That is the new normal, and that is really where we start as a fire agency across the county with evacuation talk. So with this, just kind of set the scene, just before we get into the project, the why always comes up about wildfires in California, what's going on, what's the problem. It's really kind of two big components at play here right now. One is that we have the climate aspect of it going on, and whether people believe in climate change or not, we have data, and the data shows us that we have higher temperatures, we have drier vegetation, we have length of fire season becoming longer. So that's indisputable from the climate side. But we also have the human impact as well. We live in areas that we didn't live in 100 years ago. We have population growth. We're up to 40 million in California, almost 40 million people. And we have infrastructure that's aging that hasn't been maintained to its highest standards. So you take the climatic change, you take the human impacts of it, you bundle that together, and you see this result of what we're seeing lately, which is this new normal of more fires, more destructive, more often across the state. So with that, in 2018, myself, Chief Sampson, as well as some of the other chiefs in the room here at our annual meeting, really came up with this idea that What are we going to do in San Mateo County for when the big one strikes to get people evacuated? How do we get people out? Because if we've learned anything on these fires over the last 3 years, it's that they are not firefights in the first 24 hours. They are mass evacuation events. That is really what they need to be framed as. And if that's the case, we need to understand how to get people out most effectively. Matt and I were charged at the end of January 2018 from the fire chiefs in the county to come up with an evacuation plan that is based on cooperation in this county. The issue that we've seen on a lot of evacuations is if one area is doing it one way, another area is doing it another way, siloing effects really has an impact on how people get information and what happens when the actual disaster strikes. So Matt and I naively thought we were signing ourselves up for a project that included a new binder with a bunch of maps in it, with a bunch of zones that we could deliver to everybody and call it good. But we quickly learned that the status quo of the processes that were in place needed to be a little bit turned up to get some information and channels out there a little bit quicker for people across the county. So with that, where did we start? We kind of just started with a brainstorming of what are the norms for evacuations. And the first thing we found out is that there's a lot of agencies across the state of California, counties, cities, grappling with this issue, this new normal, how it affects our communities, and how we're going to address it. So we felt like we had some comfort in that we weren't alone in this problem, which was nice. And we also recognized that people get their information from their channels that they use in their daily lives. So presenting a solution to the public that is something that they're not used to using, whether it be social media or a phone call from friends or the news media, is really difficult to do. And that was something that we thought about very early on, is making sure that whatever we were doing with evacuations played into the channels that were already there across the community. And we looked at how people get their information when there's a disaster. And you can see here, this is kind of the shotgun of all the different ways that people get informed. They call 911. I think I see a fire out of my backyard. They get the mass notifications, the SMC alerts. They go on social media and see that their friends are posting about something going on in their community. They talk to first responders, police officers knocking on doors, or firefighters driving down the road. They look at websites to see if the web's been updated, or they watch the news media for the news releases that come out in press conferences. So unfortunately, we kind of figured out early on that there's no one silver bullet right now for getting people out, right? There's not that one way that you can just get people evacuated when a large fire is coming. We also understood that evacuation authority really falls to law enforcement in the letter of the law for the penal code. And if the firefighters know where the fire is going and the police officers have the authority to evacuate, that collaboration and connection between those two agencies is critical in ensuring that evacuations take place, because they have the authority, yet they look to us as being the fire experts to understand where the fire is going. So successful evacuations are based on collaboration. On a big fire, it's not uncommon to have local fire, state fire, local law enforcement, state law enforcement, OES, dispatch centers. So there's so many stakeholders that come into place when these large disasters strike. And the current way of evacuation in most areas of the state of California is fairly ad hoc, right? You have a fire that occurs, you pull out a map, you get a Sharpie, you put it on the front of a pickup truck, and you really start to line out the areas that you want to evacuate, which has worked and has worked up till now and is very kind of foolproof in that it's very binary. The problem with that is that map that people look at on the front of their truck makes sense to them, but how do you message that out to 70,000 people who are using a variety of different methods to get information? And as you can see, that's really the challenge we looked at. There's just some examples of fire and law agencies at scene coming up with evacuation plans, both immediate and planned. And then we also looked at how do we, as fire and law enforcement agencies, get information out. And we also have different ways of getting information out. We all have different social media accounts. We all have different public information officers. We all have different ways that we do it. And we recognize that we had to look internally as well when it came to evacuations. So, when a big fire strikes and we have to do things, we have news conferences, we have to type out messages on social media, we have to brief people in person, we have to get the webmaster to get the website information updated, we have to make sure that 911 dispatchers know where the evacuations are so when people call 911, they can give them correct information. And we realized the stack of workload that first responders have is very similar to the stack of information channels that the community gets. There's these very big kind of lists of tasks that we both either have to do or get information from. So if you put all this mess together of what we kind of started this whole project out with, it looked like this. That first responders have an emergency, they get together, they get out the map, they get out the Sharpies, then we have a list of different things that we need to do to get the information out to the public, and then the public has a bunch of different ways that they get the information, and then the information gets to them. And really, the basis of this whole project is that bottom line right there, which is time. Right? And that is our enemy in these fast-moving wildland fires, because every step of that process takes time, and really we want to get the information from that command staff or that incident commander to the public as quickly as possible. That's the basis to kind of sum up where we started all this with. We were able to get Supervisor Horsley convinced that we had a bright idea, and he put Measure K funding towards this to work on a standardized countywide evacuation plan last March. And the fundamentals that we presented were this. It's going to be a platform that all agencies can use to coordinate evacuations countywide from all stakeholders. No more siloing when it comes to evacuations. A solution that works beyond San Mateo County. So if Santa Clara County wants to get on board, Alco or Contra Costa County, it would also be adaptable for them to be a part of the platform. It has to be real time. And that's really one of the core fundamentals of this project to us, is it has to be a real-time platform. And it has to be based on existing information channels. We realize we're not reinventing the way we talk to people, we're just reinventing the way that we fit into the system. We wanted to reduce the complication on the fire side and the law enforcement side, that if you can order a pizza, if you can order a car, if you can buy a house, if you can pay your bank account on your phone or your tablet, there is no reason why you can't get your evacuations done in a very simple and effective manner. The tool has to be able to incorporate local knowledge so that people who live in Belmont and the first responders of Belmont can put their first response information in, just like the city of San Carlos could have their information and Brisbane could have theirs. And most importantly, it has to be available to the public. What we do is something that has to be available to the public, and it has to be available for mutual aid law enforcement officers and firefighters to come through. That was the project fundamentals. We spent a couple hundred hours working with every single one of your law and fire jurisdictions, meeting one-on-one, going street by street, going community by community, figuring out all of the zones in this county. So we now have over 300 standardized evacuation zones in this county for use during large events. And really what we were able to do is build a platform with this Measure K funding that was put forward that all agencies can get on. And as soon as they send an alert, it has the ability to actually send to all of the different mechanisms that the public gets. So literally our vision is, when the first responder clicks that button on the scene that there's an evacuation, it automates that whole process that up until now has been manually having to inject it with all the different steps involved. We found a couple developers who are actually here, Charlie Crocker and Jeff Saunders. They're from a company called Zonehaven. With the seed money we got from Measure K, they formed a company based on our idea. They obviously are very busy now with everyone else around the state finding out about what we're working on. But they have developed this tool beyond anything that we could have anticipated and really customized it to what we need. So here's some photos of just working with local jurisdictions. This is Redwood City, San Carlos, going zone by zone, going area by area to build all of these zones. This is, I think, Menlo Park. This is also at a police chief's meeting. And all of our meetings include fire and law at the same time. We've been able to integrate with the law platforms that they use on their phones as well to make sure they're getting the information they need. So with that, I'm just going to give it over to Matt to show you the actual tool of what all of your jurisdictions have been working on and how it looks. I know this is kind of the best part of it all, so I'll turn it over to Matt.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. So this is really exciting for us. This is the first time we've shown the product off publicly. And so we like to be able to show you what it can do and talk a little bit more about it. Bear with me as I try to move the mouse here. So looking at the big picture, what you're seeing is our county and then the division of the 300 plus predetermined evacuation zones. And these really, the way we look at them is our bubbles of knowledge of the first responders that are already responsible for that area. and they're packaging it up and allowing us to be able to leverage it when an emergency strikes, so that we have the ability to make decisions quickly, and we're not dependent on our most senior person that has done this tons and tons of times, but more so that someone can do it from an outside agency. So as I clicked on the map, I just double clicked in the wrong area, but I'm going to zoom in and take a look selfishly at my city, South San Francisco. And as we look at the base of San Bruno Mountain here, you'll see the zones divided up and some icons in there. And they're all numbered so that we have the ability to translate those across different platforms. So these zones were developed and designed based on a few different features. One, we wanted to make sure that the egress points were attainable by those that needed to exit or during an evacuation. We did a bunch of co-route analysis for the road network using N of 1 for a lot of single-family homes, then developed the traffic pattern based on that to what we considered egress point, and then did the traffic analysis to determine how long it would take people to actually leave an area. And just on a side note, what this is actually building is a deeper understanding of our own communities and how we can start to alter roadways so that we can potentially expedite evacuations even faster. So zooming in a little bit further, I'll double click on that. Zooming in here, this is SSF1. This is the Terra Bay neighborhood at the base of San Bruno Mountain. And when you click on it, the zone is highlighted. And what that shows is a little bit more deeper knowledge on the right-hand side. Population, structures, number of parcels, and then we get some information about the fire department responsible for the area and also the law enforcement agency responsible for that. Some other information in here that's going to be valuable to the folks coming to help us out. Critical evacuation facilities, places that we need to be considerate of, folks that might not be able to get out under their own power or just mass concentrations of people. And then we have the ability to control what's going on in the zone in terms of the evacuation process from this side here. In the top left, there's a current weather bar, and that weather is indexed to the zone that's highlighted. So as we move throughout the county, we'll be able to figure out what the weather is. And as we continue to develop this product, and I'll show a little bit after the zone presentation, but we're going to start trying to potentially model what fire is going to be doing and how fast it's going to be going so we can start to look to evacuate in a much more efficient way. So this zone here shows clear, and then the top across the bar here, we have the ability as first responder agencies to edit these zones. And editing means going in and adding things as developments happen, increasing the populations, decreasing the populations, whatever the case may be. A new facility gets built that we want to do that. It also gives us the ability to give a status for the zone. And you see it currently here as green under normal. And we've used the same verbiage as the state uses so that we're in line with the rest of the state in terms of how we want to do that. And as we scroll down, there's different levels. And if we would actually click here, this evacuation order, this would be, hey, danger is coming, we need to get the folks out. We'd click that, and once you hit save, the zone actually turns a different color, and this is when the processes would start behind the scene, what Jonathan had talked about. So an initial blast out through all the social media channels, through SMC alert, potentially WIA type alerts, depending on the emergency. And then we've also recently, through the benefit of the folks from Zone Haven here in the room, have developed a partnership with Waze so that this information will be translated to their platform so no one will be routed into the zone itself, only out. And I think that partnership is going to actually grow some legs and give us some more tools as we go forward. But for right now, it's a pretty neat start to be able to do that. So we're excited about that. You can also click on multiple zones, and one of the benefits of that is it will start aggregating the numbers so that we'll actually see more traffic. And when you start taking a look at stuff, if South San Francisco evacuates a zone, what's the effect on Brisbane, or vice versa as we start moving through there? One of the other big pieces of this is that this used to be in a binder with pages, and binders don't get updated that often. It's very costly, it's very timely to do. But we like the ability to still have paper reference if technology fails. So one of the things that we required from Zone Haven was to add in a PDF map page. So for each zone, as this loads, you get a more detailed look at the zone. And so this can be done for a few reasons. One, to give to a responding law enforcement officer or someone from outside the area is not familiar. You can actually show them the website, QR coded up top. They could download it to their phone, no problem. And it gives them the basic information they have. And what's of interest, these red dots are what we call traffic control points. We've identified these areas to pre-position law enforcement officers to expedite the traffic flows through those areas so we don't get the bottlenecking we've seen in the past.
And then again, the information that was on the edit tab will live down here. And these get updated daily. So if our folks go in and make a change, by the next morning, it'll be ready to go. So a pretty neat function. Any questions on that part, Zora? Yes.
Sorry, and I have to leave. A couple of us have bike pedestrian meeting. Some of our communities are what I call cut-through communities. People from out of the area cut through us to get to transportation locations. And I'm old, so I know what I did during the '89 earthquake and some of the other things when the freeway shut down because of a shooting on the freeway. I ended up cutting through San Carlos and Belmont, anything to get me to 280 to get home. Can we, when you continue to develop these, consider that not all of us are just emptying our own neighborhoods. We're also having people that are not familiar with our communities cutting through us to get through that. And I'm not sure how you would overlay that. I am a geographer, so it's kind of interesting, but keep that in mind. We have hundreds, if not thousands, of people driving through Millbrae on 3 or 4 roads, and one of those roads is a major access to the 200 to 300 houses that are now in the fire zone. So if we're trying to get them out and everybody's leaving BART at the same time, we're stuck. Thank you.
Very good point. It's one we've been trying to keep into consideration, and one of that is the ability to start looking at zones together, multiple zones at the same time.
I only bring that up because Waze, however you pronounce it, all of those software programs are on my list because I'd rather get to wave my magic wand and say, people, if you're not from Millbrae, don't drive through us anymore. Right. We don't have that control. So it would be working with these other software developers too.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the real benefits of this project is that the folks that have helped us are able to start leading us in the right direction on how to make progress through those types of relationships, which has been something we haven't been as familiar as we have before.
This is great. Thank you.
So I'm going to turn this zone back before they all take off.
Questions
yeah, absolutely.
here. Mr. Lieberman?
Thank you very much. So this looks very, very intriguing, and I hope we can kind of get a more in-depth review of this at some point in the future. Who is the primary user of this, or who's expected to be the primary user of this? I mean,
Right. So one of the things from the onset is we wanted to make sure that it was used by either law enforcement, OES, or fire. So anyone can actually activate it, like what we're doing now, reference it.
Okay.
But it also had to have a publicly facing component, so that the public can look to find out if their zone's been evacuated. And there's actually a selection for repopulation, like now it's safe to go back into your zone as well. And it's going to live at the dispatch center, so that if anyone calls to say, hey, what's going on, what's up in my area, they'll be able to take a look as well and say, it's been evacuated or has not been.
so just to clarify, if I may, when you say there's a public-facing element, would members of the public actually be able to, so to speak, download this app and access it and do interactive stuff with it?
No, they would just be able to reference if their zone's been evacuated or not.
In other words, by calling somebody, or?
No, actually looking at a map on the application, and it'll be color-coded.
So they would be like on their phone or their iPad or computer, they would access that.
Yes.
Great. And I would love to see if we can, at some point, get a longer, in-depth review of this with city staff, et cetera.
Absolutely.
Yep. Thank you.
Ms. Borgens?
No, that was good. I like the question.
All right, Ms. Keegren?
So then a quick question though. So would you be able, let's say, to take this map and then attach it then to an SMC alert? So when people are alerted, they kind of know, they can see the map and see what evacuation routes they need to take?
So right now, the big push was to make sure that these shape files are translated into SMC alerts, so they're going to be preloaded. So
Okay.
when that evacuation warning goes out, that same area will get an SMC alert. And then once we dive a little bit more deeper and we get a little bit better into the traffic pattern, we'll actually be able to hopefully, and we get a little bit nervous about saying this, but actually give an advice on which way to go for an event.
Okay.
But
And
that's
then,
a big deal to be able to make that.
right. And then would you be able to do it then in multiple languages?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
That's part of the request.
Okay. I know there's some members that have to go to BPAC. You're excused. All right. Ms. Taylor?
I wanted to say thank you about using consistent language. I think that is really helpful, that all the emergency responders, law enforcement are using the same language. My question is, if someone is trapped someplace, would they be able to use this to tell you where they were?
It's interesting you say that. So the answer is no as of right now.
Okay.
But as we sit and we brainstorm, we start thinking about stuff like that. And then the folks that actually turn this into a reality pull us back and say, let's develop this, let's get this right first before we start moving there, because two-way messaging is something we want to consider at some point, but it's just not there yet.
Do you want to wrap up?
Yeah, I will. Thank you, Matt. In anticipation of that exact question regarding a more in-depth, all the fire chiefs who are here, as well as all the fire chiefs across the county and the law enforcement chiefs, are aware of the project, have been engaged with the project, and there is an expectation that there'll be those reach outs and asking for more in-depth information. So the access is there across the board, across the county for the different jurisdictions. I'll just close it out real quick and just say kind of what are our next steps with this project. One is making sure that all the agencies have the information updated, that it's populated and ready to go. That it links to all of the different systems. As Matt said, we're probably rounding first base on this project, and we got a long way to go. We feel we just have exposed kind of the what's going on, and ensuring that OES and SMCs and all the alerts are built in with the zones properly. And then there's the public side of it, which at a local level will be that Know Your Zone kind of campaign that comes along with it. And kind of this is all contingent upon us finding that sustainable funding for this year over year at the county-wide level. So these are all the tasks that we're kind of focusing on in the immediacy, but really wanted to publicly present it because of the sentiment and concern that's out in the public right now, and just giving you that acknowledgement that you single-handedly, your law enforcement and fire chiefs across this county are innovators at what's going on in this realm. So happy to answer any questions, happy to give you contacts if you need any. And finally, just want to say thank you to Supervisor Canepa. I think we had Supervisor Horsley, we had to get the moonshot, but Supervisor Canepa has been there with us every step. So you have a very big advocate at the county level.
Thank you. Mr. Medina.
Real quick, more of a statement I wanted to say for somebody who went up to Town of Paradise after the tragic fire. I would say something like this is instrumental, because obviously at Paradise there are only so many ways in and out, and it was more of a phone call, and of course it went over the Feather River faster than anyone had envisioned. But to see the devastation up there after that, and realizing, and I appreciate the work and the effort that's been done for, we can say we're not in that type of vegetation, but it can happen. It will happen. And I think we need to be proactive into that. So I'm very appreciative that you've been working collaboratively and collectively with all the agencies within our community, because again, when something tragic happens, and San Bruno knows this, boundaries go down. We have to work together. We have to provide for each other and help one another. So thank you.
Mr. Lieberman?
Thank you. If I may just ask through the chair, just one last comment in my mind, because I know wildfire concerns are a very big issue of concern for a lot of folks in Belmont. This has the potential to be such a fabulous, helpful, useful tool. I mean, I can't say enough nice words about it. As you get to a point where you feel comfortable, I'm going to say, I suggest you make sure the Chronicle knows, the San Mateo Daily Journal knows, because what's incredibly important, which is kind of what you've got here in your, I think, fourth bullet, is you've got to make sure that the members of the community, the people in the community, not the 50 people here, right, and not the law enforcement officers, but all the folks who are living for Belmont on Hallmark Drive, on our other cities, that, you know what, they got a lot of stuff going on in their lives and they don't pay attention. Got to find out any way to make sure they're aware, and we'll do our part in the city. But anything you can do to make sure that the newspapers are able to cover this and communicate, and the TV, I think it's wonderful.
Thank you. Great.
Are there any additional questions?
One more comment, if I can make it.
Yes.
So first of all, congratulations. This is awesome. And on your educational component campaign, you might want to take it to the schools too. Kids tend to take it home to their parents. So it'd be
a great idea.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great. I just want to say it was amazing when you showed me the technology. I think going through the binders and doing all that, that's just, I mean, it's so 50 years ago, 60 years ago. If we have the technology and we can harness it and use it to our advantage, we should do that. And I think, as policymakers, I think the County Board of Supervisors needs to sort of look at what is the sustainable funding. I'm willing to to work with you and Don on that. So thank you. I have to mention someone who's extraordinarily special to me, who represents everything that's right with CAL FIRE. That's Brian Ham. Captain Ham, thank you for being here. Stand up, Brian. Thank you. When there was a fire on San Bruno Mountain, I went with Chief, I want to call you Chief, Deputy Chief Cox and Brian Ham. They actually extinguished, how many, was it 16 acres?
Yeah, it was about that. Yeah.
About 16 acres. But you folks are really the true heroes. So thank you for all you do, okay? And thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Now, I heard our next reports are going to be pretty brief. And so it's a hazmat update. And I think we have Jeff Thorne.
Thank you very much. This won't take more than an hour and a half, so thank you so much for your time. And I don't have as many Twitter followers as Chief Cox does, but that's what I got. So I'm here all week, so just won't take a couple minutes of your time, so thank you for your patience. Just give you an update of what our hazmat team's been doing for the last quarter of the year and kind of what we did last year. Is we keep evolving our team. We keep getting more and more personnel trained up on our team. Our last meeting I mentioned, we're putting people through school, where they've now completed school. We've increased our team size by almost by 33%. Which is actually a huge increase, which allows us to give us more better service to the county that we provide. Which by having better service means you get your fire engines in your town back to doing what they're supposed to be doing, protecting your town, right? Not sitting on a dumpster, sitting somewhere, or abandoned drum, and so forth. So it helps get the process a lot quicker by having more personnel there. And to do that, we had over 3,000 hours of training we did last year. This with our team members and bringing new team members on. And it's kind of showing because this last quarter, we actually were fairly busy in this quarter. And we have, which is probably about 3 times the amount of calls that we typically run just in the last quarter. Which again, everything from calls up in South San Francisco, involving people doing chemicals in hotels, which is kind of a bad thing, I've been told. Yeah. All the way down to unique calls like we had down in Woodside. We had a pool cleaning truck that went over the embankment on the hill. Rather kind of minor chemicals, you would think, just basic pool cleaning stuff, but they can be rather toxic in certain environments. But to get down there, we actually had to rappel down using rope systems down in an embankment. We had to use the jaws of life to cut up the car to get the chemicals out. And we had to figure out how to get them out from down below up to the top. This whole incident probably took about 4 hours. We couldn't have done it without our partners at CAL FIRE, Woodside, AMR, and the Sheriff's Office to get it done. So rather kind of unique. We're kind of like an all-in-one type team at that time. It's kind of unique how we do it. But again, we're looking towards the new year to keep expanding our team, to do better services to provide to the community, increasing our equipment. We put in a lot of equipment for grants to get because everything in hazmat's expensive, like everything else. So we put a lot of stuff for grants to get more funds into our team to help kind of expand our team to get to the next level that we can get to with our team. So we can be equivalent in training and equipment and personnel as like large cities like San Francisco, San Jose, and Oakland Fire. So a lot more, looking for a really exciting year with our team to kind of move forward and more positive things to come back to you guys. You guys have any questions at all? Or?
All right.
I'm
Yes,
sorry,
Ms.
real
Morgan.
quick, I'm sorry.
Yes.
So with all the new technology out here and with all the concerns that are going on, do you feel that your teams have the correct equipment to do the job?
Right now, everything's changing rapidly.
Yes.
When our team first was created back in the mid-'80s, this county was a lot different. There's a lot more industrial stuff, and our team was kind of originally based around that. As the county starts to evolve, we're getting a lot more biotech. Things are going up in this county, so again, a lot of high rises that have chemicals being stored or used and above ground. That we're trying to adapt as quickly as society is changing, and it just takes time. The equipment we have is sufficient, and we do have a lot of neighboring resources that bring things in, either from neighboring cities, counties, or even the National Guard over across. We're very fortunate they're right across the bridge in Hayward, and we're really good partners with them, so we have a lot of access there, but it takes time to get here. Our goal is to get to those levels, but unfortunately the finances are kind of preventing us from going there as fast as we like, but we're making, as things start to come up for replacement, we're replacing with the next level equipment to make it better, to stay with the technology that's moving a lot faster than, unfortunately, we do it sometimes. But we are getting there.
All right. Mr. Lieberman.
Thank you. And if I'll just offer one quick comment. Because you're based in Belmont, you've been based in Belmont for a while. I've had an opportunity to get to know you and the hazmat team for the last 15 years. My unbiased view, and I'm very critical, You guys not only set a model for the state, but for the country. You've done an incredibly good job so far as I've been on the Belmont City Council, and thank you. And I really believe that you've done enormous service for the whole county, and that's why the county has been supportive of the efforts of the team. So
Thank you.
I just really wanted to just get that out.
Yeah, and we try to hold ourselves to the same standard as everyone else because, we all have egos a little bit. So again, this kind of shows we look at ourselves as the same standard as any other team in the state, that we can put my team up to everyone else, and we perform as good, if not better, than they can do.
Yep.
So.
All right.
Any more jokes or anything I can do for you? No? Okay.
Get some more Twitter followers. Just kidding. Now we have the report from the Emergency Managers Association update.
Good evening. Well, I got to follow those guys. So my best thing that I did for you is I pulled my big PowerPoint, and I'm just going to read a couple things and get out of your hair. So Happy New Year, Supervisor Canepa and council members. As Kevin Rose so elegantly spoke to you earlier about, we had a busy year last year. So what does the new year bring? The new year comes bearing gifts. For some, the gift of relief that last year is over. For others, a new year brings hope for the future and for a better year than last. A new year can also bring anticipation for what's ahead. So, what do we have to look forward to? Things like climate change, PSPS, cybersecurity issues, terrorism, the deadly new coronavirus, earthquakes. When is the big one going to hit? What I can tell you, whatever this year brings, San Mateo County is ready. Ready to train thousands of new CERT members, ready to write new plans and revise old ones, ready to sign up thousands to SMC Alert, ready to spend hundreds of hours exercising our EOCs and their staffs and those plans, and ready for new technology. So from the San Mateo County Emergency Managers Association, I thank you for your guidance last year, and we look forward to your guidance this year for whatever 2020 brings us.
Great.
See you in April.
That was pretty good. You know, one thing you forgot to do is do we want to recognize the fire chief? Do we have a fire chief here?
I do have a fire chief here.
I think, wouldn't it be appropriate to recognize him?
I can absolutely do that if you
Sure.
don't mind.
Yes.
The chief from South San Francisco Fire Department, Jess Magianis.
Thank you for being here, Chief. Really appreciate you taking your time. So I hope I didn't get you in the doghouse.
I did that myself.
All right. So brings us to the American Red Cross update. Yeah.
Thank you for having me again. This is a very hard act to follow, but I'll just give you a couple of quick facts about our Red Cross in the last quarter. 15 fires, 66 victims scattered across the county. But since we're speaking about fire, in terms of preparedness, we're working coming up this Saturday with the City of San Mateo, Belmont, and Foster City in our whole Sound the Alarm program. In terms of installing smoke alarms, we hope to be in 100 homes over on Saturday. And following that, we're going to be in San Bruno. Again, the Sound Alarm program, looking to hit a whole bunch more homes in collaboration with your CERT teams, both in San Mateo and in San Bruno. So that's our report, and thank you.
Thank you very much for coming. Do we have any announcements from any of the board members? Mr. Goethals.
So San Mateo Consolidated, the newest fire agency in San Mateo County, which includes Foster City, Belmont, and San Mateo, has a new fire chief.
Okay.
He is present tonight. I'm introducing Ray Iverson, our new chief. Ray, thank you very much.
Okay, are there any fire chiefs we forgot? Stand up now and, okay, good. That brings us, is there any public comment? All right. With that, our future Emergency Service Council meeting will be, ESC meeting will be April 16th, 2020. Everyone have a Happy New Year. Thank you for being here. Thank you.
Good to see you. I'm not.